After dealing with by far the most ridiculous rumors that I've had to cover over the past week, it appears as though we're finally getting something a little bit more realistic. So what's going on, guys? Your boy Mike here, and we're continuing by far the craziest upload streak that you have ever seen in the history of sports YouTube. Now, before we get to the content, if you're new to the channel, I just want to let you know that if you subscribe and turn on my notifications, you will be entered for a chance to win a PlayStation 5. Like, straight up, we've announced a winner already this past week, and I'm looking for my next winner within the next 10 days, so make sure you're subscribed and you have my notifications on. And for additional chances to win a PlayStation 5, there's 2 additional giveaways going on my Instagram and on my Twitter account. Now that we got all that out of the way, cue the intro. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Guys, I have a lot of news for you if you're a Los Angeles basketball fan, whether it's the Los Angeles Clippers or the Los Angeles Lakers. And the first one has to do with the Los Angeles Clippers, and it ties into the trade rumor that I've been hearing. So according to Stephen A. Smith, Kawhi Leonard has made it privately known that he needs a point guard and has began clamoring for one. Now, this is not to be misinterpreted with the fact that Kawhi Leonard went to the Clippers front office and said, hey, we need a new PG, in a reference to Paul George. As a matter of fact, this is something that does make a lot of sense because at the end of the day, as proficient as Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are at scoring, they aren't really good at creating for themselves, and they aren't really good for creating for their teammates. They're remarkable scorers and fantastic two-way players, but having someone to set them up for open shots and having someone to set up the entire offense so it's not one-dimensional could do wonders for the Los Angeles Clippers. The Los Angeles Clippers have been involved in a lot of rumors this offseason, and to be honest, there's been some that apparently have been true, and there's been some that have been BS. For example, there's this one report that says Patrick Beverley, Montrezl Harrell, and Lou Williams bristled when Kawhi Leonard was allowed to control his load management. And you can see their responses. Montrezl Harrell posted this on Instagram saying, man, y'all create anything for a story, huh? Lou Williams also came out denying anything to do with this report. So it seems like, and I could actually attest to this myself because I do create NBA news content, the Los Angeles Clippers have been one of the hottest topics for me to create content on. People seem to be very interested in them. So I wouldn't hold it past the media to create some fake news in regards to Kawhi Leonard and Paul George and the Los Angeles Clippers in order for them to get a bunch of extra clicks. And we do our best on this channel not to bring you guys fake news and expose the fake news and expose the fake trade rumors and actually discuss what rumors are logical and what rumors are fairly illogical, which is why we're discussing today's biggest rumor. And one of these rumors I'm creating on my own by, connecting 2 dots. So I'm going to admit there is no source for one of these rumors and there is a source for the other. So the one that there is a source for is the Los Angeles Lakers are apparently really interested in trading for a new point guard. And the most popular rumor that's going around in regards to the Los Angeles Lakers is this ridiculous rumor that they could somehow trade for Chris Paul. And this is the 3rd time I'm saying this in my content, so I'm sure all of you guys could comment in the comment section down below why Chris Paul cannot get traded to the Lakers. And I'm going to let all the members of my woke Mike Mafia to go ahead, give them an opportunity to comment why the Lakers cannot trade for Chris Paul. And I'm going to give you guys about 5 seconds, and then I'm going to explain it to all the newbies up in here. So the reason why it's impossible for the Los Angeles Lakers to trade for Chris Paul is the contract simply just doesn't work. The Lakers could trade every single player on their roster except for Anthony Davis and LeBron James, and they will still not be able to make the cap space work between trading for Chris Paul and everyone else on the roster. And I just wanted to expose the living hell out of this because the media really loved running away with this narrative, but today I'm seeing something that makes a lot more sense. And this is something that I was hoping would happen at the trade deadline this past year, but it really didn't happen. And that's in regards to Derrick Rose. Now look, Derrick Rose probably will never get back to his MVP form in Chicago, but he is doing a remarkable job building his stock as a player that is a solid contributor that is definitely an above average and higher starter on a potential championship team. As in his year with Minnesota in 2018 and 2019, he averaged 18 points per game on 48% shooting to go along with 4 assists, and did it on an extremely efficient 19.5 PER. Now, this last year with Detroit, we saw a little bit more of the same. Once again, going for 18 points, 5.6 assists with a PER of 21, which means if the Detroit Pistons are smart because they're clearly rebuilding, this is the time where you want to sell on Derrick Rose, which makes a lot of sense, and probably the best team you could trade him to that could give you the most return for your value on Derrick Rose is a team that's trying to contend for a championship. Enter the Los Angeles Lakers, which is the rumor that I'm about to reveal to you, and a rumor I'm going to create by myself, which is the Los Angeles Clippers. Now, as for the Lakers originally had interest in Derrick Rose at the trade deadline, but it seems as though a deal is a little bit more likely now that the season's over. And here's the official report according to Sean Devaney at Heavy.com. I think both sides were reluctant when they went into January and February, one general manager told Heavy.com. I don't think the Lakers wanted to make a major move because they thought they could do something on the buyout market. And I don't think the Pistons wanted to make a major move because Derrick was happy there. You know, the Lakers wanted to be involved in case the Clippers got involved or someone else, the Bucks or Nuggets, whoever. So there was interest, but not too serious. Now everything has shifted a little. Now they're both in a position to where a deal is much more likely now. Now look, man, there's something I gotta be 100% honest with you guys about as a Laker fan. And this isn't to hate on an individual. This is just something that is definitely gonna happen this year. And I expect this player of the Los Angeles Lakers to get traded no matter what. And that's Kyle Kuzma. And it's nothing against Kyle Kuzma at all whatsoever. It's just, I don't see the Lakers paying Kyle Kuzma what Kyle Kuzma could get on the open market. You see, this is Kyle Kuzma's final year with the Los Angeles Lakers before he becomes a restricted free agent. And there's going to be a 100% chance that some team is going to offer Kyle Kuzma an obscene amount of money. I'm expecting something very similar to what Malcolm Brogdon received, or maybe even something similar to what Fred VanVleet is about to receive as well. Kyle Kuzma did a fantastic job building himself up as a really strong scorer on a championship team or a top 2 option on a rebuilding team. And the next step forward for Kyle Kuzma, in my opinion, is probably to leave the Lakers and go to a team that would make him more of a focal point of the offense, especially now that he's won an NBA championship and his brand has grown to the point that it has grown to. So if you ask me, I feel like the Lakers are definitely going to shop Kyle Kuzma this year because they're going to lose him for nothing otherwise. They're not going to pay him a max contract. Let's be honest here. So originally, the reason why this trade didn't work between the Lakers and the Detroit Pistons is probably because the Lakers knew that they could have gotten another good year out of Kyle Kuzma. And it just made sense in terms of continuity. And they probably thought that they would have been able to get like Reggie Jackson or Darren Collison off the buyout market. And originally, they were close to bringing in Darren Collison before he decided to stay retired. So now that a year has passed and Kyle Kuzma is set to become a free agent after this year, and is probably going to get overpaid for his services, it makes sense for the Lakers to move him for somebody as soon as possible. So if you ask me, the trade we're looking at here, if this was to happen, is probably going to be Avery Bradley and Kyle Kuzma going over to the Detroit Pistons and the Lakers receiving Derrick Rose in return. Now, of course, I'm not going to include picks here because at the end of the day, draft picks and all that stuff is dependent upon how much leverage each team has. I don't really know what the Pistons are going to seek from the Lakers. I don't really know how savvy Rob Pelinka is going to be in making such a deal. But this is the official rumor. The rumor doesn't include the Avery Bradley Kyle Kuzma bid. That was just my little test to make sure that this trade could happen. But according to the rumor, this is what would need to happen in order to make such a trade work. And if you ask me, on a scale of 1 to 10 on the logic scale, I would give this a 10. I feel like this makes perfect sense for both teams. The Lakers need to move on from Kyle Kuzma before they lose him for nothing. The Pistons need to sell high on Derrick Rose and get a nice young prospect in return. I don't know, maybe the Pistons will throw in Thon Maker or something, or maybe the Lakers could somehow get Christian Wood out of it. I don't really think that's going to happen, but hey, you never know. Now, let's say Derrick Rose was so traumatized in his lone year with LeBron James that he absolutely refuses to play for the Lakers, which, I don't know, for all you know, that could be the case. You never know. So, in that case, I feel like Derrick Rose being traded to the Clippers is also extremely logical, and this time, instead of the Clippers giving away draft picks because they don't have the capital to do such a thing, I would imagine them giving away like a good young asset like Landry Shamet. So in this instance, I could see them trading like Ivica Zubac and Landry Shamet, or if they really want to get crazy, I don't think this would happen, but if it gets to the point where they want to take such a route, they could even trade Lou Williams for Derrick Rose, but I really would rather not trade Lou Will if I was the Los Angeles Clippers. They could potentially trade Patrick Beverley as well for Derrick Rose, but I don't think the Pistons would want to take on that type of contract unless if they're getting draft picks in return. So let me know in the comments section down below, which of these trades do you think are more likely to happen? Honestly, the Los Angeles Lakers trade to me sounds to be a little bit more realistic, and bear in mind, I have no source for the Clippers trying to trade for Derrick Rose. This is just some conclusion I drew on my own, and I 100% admit that. Aside from that, I'm your boy, TheFlightMike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.